Welcome to the Media Odyssey Podcast. There you go. This is Marion Ranchet.
And this is Shapiro.
And we're coming to you live, or near live, from...
The Lions, the Cannes Lions.
This is your first Cannes Lion, isn't it?
It is. I'm coming here 3 times a year for the last 20 years. But
for
never
MIPCOM and
yeah,
for
exactly.
other...
Never the Lions.
And what's your first impression? I think there are a lot of people who listen to us who come to MIPCOM, or they may come to another convention here, but they've not been to Cannes Lion, which is advertiser-based, marketing-based. Your impressions?
A lot more rosé, so much money.
A lot more rosé.
A lot more. It's hotter. A lot more rosé, and man, the activation across the beach is insane.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So when you say activations, I think people think about, people handing out flyers or in costumes or something like that. These are massive stages. Like 50 Cent played on the beach last night. Google Beach is massive. Freewheel Beach is massive.
The Amazon port?
Yeah.
Is it because you're drinking port or you're near the port?
No, it's a port.
I know,
There's a boat.
Yeah, I know.
See, they get it. This is your home country. You should be able to translate. First impressions. What about the conversations that you're hearing here? I was at a party, a celebration for Young Lion Team USA. There's a competition here amongst. Well, first of all, it's a festival. So there's a competition amongst different marketing campaigns and advertisements and ads. And there's a Young Lion competition. So people who are new to the industry compete from different countries. I met the Young Lion US team yesterday. And everybody there, it was at the Known Villa, seemed to really be up. This Cannes seems bigger than last year. They seem to be pretty hopeful, which is interesting because I thought coming out of the upfront, anxiety was the watchword. What do you think?
Yeah, I have to say the same. And we came out of another event last week where most of content providers were talking about the ad market being down. So there's a bit of it's not in sync. I'm not completely in sync with what's happening here and what I'm being told by channel owners, content providers. Having said that, it's interesting to see folks like Disney and Netflix specifically investing here because they're nowhere to be seen at other events. And that says one thing to me, that is that they have something to prove. They have a narrative. They don't need to prove themselves when it comes to content. So you won't see them
to prove themselves as ad platforms, is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have that massive Mickey Mouse on
Mouse
the
House,
on the Martinez. You have I saw Netflix with the Down Under sign. There's none of that at most events that are more
they don't seem to have to prove themselves from a content standpoint, but here they have to prove themselves as new versions of advertising.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. I hadn't thought of it because this is both of their first major activations here. Disney's not really been present all that much in years past, not this way, not as a streaming platform. And that speaks to this kind of weird conundrum that the streaming ecosystem is in, which is the viewership is on streaming more and more. It's not the majority of viewership, especially not here in Europe, but it is more and more viewership, especially amongst young viewers each year, each quarter. But the advertising hasn't necessarily all caught up there. I did this report with ComScore that showed that most of the ads are seen still on broadcast. That's on both sides of the Atlantic. Do you think this is the year this will dramatically shift? Do you think we'll see even more money move into CTV and into the premium streamers this year?
I think there's always that lag, right? So the audience goes faster to new mediums than we as an industry do. I've read somewhere that this year we're looking at CTV playing catch up. I think it's going to take more time, and I think what this event shows is the amount of education that still needs to be done to convince advertisers and brands as to where they should put their money, right?
Yeah, and speaking of education, I've been on this crusade to convince big publishers to lean into the creator economy. Last week at Stream TV, I gave this presentation called "It's All the Creator Economy Now," which was about this dual ecosystem world with consumers Gen X and older watching one ecosystem and consuming in one ecosystem, and millennials and younger consuming media in a separate ecosystem of their own. And that in order to capture both, creators had to live in both worlds, but also big brands, big studios have to traverse both worlds as well. Did you read the report that I did, the landscape analysis on YouTube?
I did.
Thank you very much.
So I can actually quote.
Oh yeah.
One of the data point that was the most
Oh my
shocking, I would
goodness,
say.
I'm
So
gonna blush.
So
Okay.
I am reading you because
Everybody
I know,
here can also read on
Yeah.
Media, War, and Peace. It's my Substack newsletter.
Well, once I did not read you, and we recorded a pod, and you quizzed me on something, and I hadn't read you. So now I'm reading you.
Imagine
every
living
time.
with me. It's not easy. Yeah.
Are you reading me?
I am reading you.
Okay, Streaming Made Easy.
Streaming
on
Made
Substack.
Easy is her Substack. Yeah.
If you want to have more than the U.S. perspective on things, this is
Who
where you
needs
go.
more than the U.S. perspective?
Everyone, we need it.
I agree.
No, but so what I noticed was you were looking at data. So I wasn't surprised to see that you had that essentially 10% of the channels, were making 90%. I had that 80-20 rule. So
Yeah, so it's
good.
10%,
So
you
it's
get
10-90.
94%.
Yeah, exactly. What was surprising was to see that the top 50 was very much, mostly creators still.
Yeah, out
And
of
we're
the
20 years into the journey with YouTube.
That's right. YouTube is celebrating its 20th anniversary or 20th birthday. And actually, I'll be interviewing Neil Mohan, the CEO, tomorrow. But still, to this day, it's very creator dominated.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's moving to the living room. Most viewing, at least in the US, and I would say about half in England, YouTube viewing is on the television. And creators are now dominating with long form on TV. Yeah. More and more creators are leaning into the long form content and leaning into the TV of it all. And it seems like big brands and studios are lagging behind that. But there are exceptions, yeah. So we're here today with BBC Studios. They're going to let us break some news about what they're up to. But most importantly, I think what BBC Studios has exemplified over the last couple of years in particular with Bluey and BBC Earth and a bunch of other projects is how to act like a creator if you're a studio. And I'm turning to the audience for those of us on the audio pod and on this camera here, how to leap in and out of television and onto YouTube and onto TikTok and other areas and serve as both a big brand, a steward of large IP, and a creator at the same time. So I think that segs nicely to our first guest. Do you want to bring her in?
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to welcome Yasmin Docent. She's SVP Digital at BBC Studios. You have some fans out there. Good for you. Good for you.
And this is your apartment, so thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm not supposed to say that. Well, Yasmin, super nice having you over. So you've heard our intro, and we're always super keen to talk to companies who are bridging that gap between big media. So that's us, that's you guys, that's BBC Studios, and the creator economy. So. Do you want to tell us a bit more about how you're actually showcasing that day in, day out with one of the biggest property out there?
I think you're referring to Bluey.
Absolutely.
Bluey. You are. So BBC Studios has an incredible legacy in storytelling, and we're so lucky to have a fantastic portfolio. Bluey obviously is leading the charge. She's been an absolute rocket ship over the last few years. I've seen her through since she sort of first came onto screen. And it was a massive opportunity for us to think about what our audience cares about. And we really started to shift not only how we were working, but how we were structured and what we cared about as well. So there were 4 key things that we really tried to not only work on with Bluey, but our fantastic portfolio from BBC Earth to Top Gear to Doctor Who. And it's a real shift for us for thinking like a broadcaster to moving to a creator, which obviously you guys have been talking a lot about.
So tell us about those 4 pillars.
So Fandom is sort of what we think of as our business. Fandom as the strategic engine and not the end goal. Because I think you talk about this a lot, about the flywheel. Yeah. If you're obsessing about that fandom and you use that as a strategic engine to not only think about where you can take your YouTube strategy, your TikTok strategy, but also to have that impact on everything else and feel that more is more and seeing hopefully that impact not only on your revenues on social, but also see the uptick in things like consumer products and licensing. The next thing would be thinking like a creator. And I think that's how you make content and who you make content with. So the how you make content, we sort of moved from clips, compilations, and thinking about how we cut up our amazing content for different platforms, always thinking about the audience, but strategically thinking, how do we create content ourselves? How do we make original content that is just for this screen or this platform? And then who you make it with. So we've got incredible value with our audiences. Our fans love us, but that relevance is always going to be important for us, and sharing that relevance value with somebody else and leaning into the creator economy and working with creators of all different areas, where it's in factual, whether it's in kids and family, or in scripted, has been incredible for us. I think KPIs, which I know you talk about a lot, is also a really...
Love data.
Same, absolute data geek. And I think moving away from views, which we do incredibly well with, 14 billion views last year, but views are quite a vanity metric at this point. There is how do you measure a view? What's the view the same? And moving more to that depth of engagement and thinking about watch time, and also how is our audience engaging with us? How do we actually measure that fandom? Because just because you viewed a piece of content doesn't make you a fan.
So specializing in that fandom, and you've created, measuring fandom sounds kind of esoteric and undefinable, but you've put hard metrics around this, and this has enabled you to get to 10 million subscribers and billions of views on Bluey, but more importantly, it's a massive worldwide brand. It's one of the biggest hits on television and one of the biggest hits on YouTube too, simultaneously, which is super unusual. And proof that you can do both of these things at the same time. This brings you to some exclusive breaking news that you're bringing to us today, which is you're bringing on a brand new kids show, but from outside BBC Studios.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to have an incredible stable. With Bluey and Hey Dougie and others. But we think that we have cracked the nut in kids and family. We know that our KPIs are absolutely head and shoulders above our competitors. And therefore we started to look at where else can we look to expand our stable. So yes, we've got some amazing news coming out that we are going to be repping Akamar, which is our first...
Whole slate.
Yes.
Okay.
So, focusing on Bing.
Yeah.
So their whole slate of Bing. But the reason I say their whole slate is because Bing has, like us, a huge network of channels just for Bing.
Got it.
There are more languages than us, and they've got a huge network just dedicated to that single IP.
So that's your first time that you're repping a piece of outside intellectual property,
Yes.
right? And this is a big deal. This is a big hit on your own
Yeah.
broadcast networks or your own stations.
For CBBS, yeah.
But they've given you stewardship of this brand worldwide on digital, correct?
Absolutely, and I think it's about finding the right values for us. We take pride in the fact that our kids and family portfolio, it has heart. The inform, educate and entertain is obviously the key pillars of the BBC, but we really take that to heart in kids and family. We have a responsibility there and making sure that we're thinking about how we do move to thinking about third party and to repping more, and we've definitely got more plans on that. We had to find the right IP with the right values and also the right team. They're an incredible team. We've already had so many sessions where it just feels like it's a one team and one partnership.
That's great.
That's awesome. I love it.
So let's dig into the data. You said that you changed the metrics, right? And I'm fascinated by how we measure success, right?
Yeah.
So your view times are up 56%, or your total viewership is up 56% year on year, right? And what other metrics do you lean into? What other KPIs? So watch time, engagement. What are you measuring in as far as engagement goes?
So engagement in a few different things. So thinking about engagement as shares and positive sentiment, as well as UGC. So
oh yeah, this is something that you were talking about before. You really lean into the single individual creator using your IP to expand your breadth.
100%.
Talk about that, because that's a bravery that not a lot of brand owners have, is to let the hive take over your brand for a period of time.
yeah, and letting the hive take over your brand, you have to do it, with cautious curiosity, um, and making sure that you're really thinking about, what are you precious about with your brand? Obviously, it can go wrong, but we have ways to protect that. But it can go so right. And for us, being able to extend our brand story through our audience and creators, it makes it more powerful. And also then you're talking in a language that's more meaningful to the audience. And for us, measuring that UGC and measuring how our brand's sort of taking flight is a really important metric for Fandom.
Yeah, I guess the UGC portion is, because most of what you do, it's in a way it's top down, right, to that audience. If you empower the audience, that's how you truly build that community. And actually, we've seen data from the Cultural Trend Report from YouTube that says that people are actually sometimes more interested in watching shoulder content around the IP than the IP itself, which should act as a warning. And the Oscars is a great example. We were with YouTube Spain a couple of weeks, and the coverage of the Oscars in Spain was more watched than the Oscar themselves.
Yeah, and that gets to when you took over, or when you started to blow up the Bluey channel, you focused on the original content itself. But since then, you've really ventured into bespoke originals. You mentioned this, but they've been so successful. Well, they talk about the success of your bespoke YouTube originals, because they've gone beyond YouTube.
Yeah, they've definitely gone beyond YouTube into our partners with Disney Plus, with the ABC in Australia, and with CBeebies. And we took a risk. Before the streaming numbers hit, we took some big gambles. We wanted to do original content, and that's because we were obsessed with our audience. We knew that what they were asking of us, and we knew that they were obsessed with us. So to that point of those indicators, we knew what they were asking for, and therefore we created original content that really fed the beast. So we created an amazing partnership with Penguin Random House called Bluey Book Reads, with some incredible talent like Kylie and Danny Minogue and Eva Mendes, as well as thinking about what is it that connects our multi-generational audience on Bluey. Bluey started off as preschool, but it's definitely moved into a space where it connects with all audiences of all ages. That's tough when you're commissioning and thinking about the content that is going to connect those audiences. You have to think about what brings people together. So we created some minisodes that we felt sort of tapped into humor and heart. They were between sort of 2 and 5 minutes. Okay. But they were so good that we sort of thought these need to go more places. I think when you're creating more content, you have to think about that sort of, everything is everywhere, but how do you do it strategically? And so the windowing strategy with our partners was incredibly important. But they are so happy with their content that they're taking more. So that's incredible for us. It really, that flywheel starts to really get into motion. And therefore we have already commissioned 7 new digital series for this year. And have much more planned, just for Bluey.
Yeah, and so it seems like we talked to a lot of people, Joe Redfern and her podcast, about how
Yasmin was on.
Yeah. So how tough the kids programming business is from an advertising standpoint, especially in Europe, but just in general, it's been really, really tough. And yet you seem to be defying the gravity of that ecosystem the ways others aren't. First with Bluey and now with Bing. Why? How?
I think it is thinking about how you storytell. YouTube has no dearth of kids content.
Right, it's the biggest channel, kids channel in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. And some publishers can absolutely churn it out. But that's not really thinking about the audience. They're just trying to play the algorithm. So it's more and more and more and more, but it's not thinking about the audience at the heart of it. It's not thinking about quality storytelling. So I think it's about really reflecting the ethos of our programming. Bing and Bluey are absolutely magical in their storytelling and really capture the audience's imagination, no matter what age you are. But I think then thinking about that multi-generational audience, we have really thought about how we move away from the CPMs, because the reason why they struggle is because the CPMs in kids and family is so low. That is the problem, right? You can't get to profit because you're constantly trying to chase. So we consciously said, how do we move the needle? How do we think about not only the content that we're making, but the partners that we're working with, the creators that we're working with, to move up and away from just preschool? So that, combined with how we built out our Bluey network, So thinking about, yes, Bluey as a mainstream channel is absolutely going to try and, talk to our preschool audience, and we'll stretch into sort of parents, carers, but how can we tap into that fandom? So we've got a dedicated channel for Bingo, Bluey's little sister. We've got Bluey's bestest friends. We've got 16 different languages. We're growing that network, and that is ultimately helping us power our CPMs. And then the critical part is us selling our own content. So whilst we have worked with YouTube for 15 years now, and they have been selling our content for that amount of time, we made a conscious decision a couple of years ago to bring in a dedicated social sales team, and therefore that was really
in-house at BBC
in-house, and building a team that understands social through and through, understand how to sell content, and sell fandom, not just audiences and reach, is incredibly important.
Which YouTube seems fine with.
Not
right?
only, they prefer it. And that's what I think people don't understand about the Partners Program. So first, let's double click on one thing. One, you changed all your KPIs to fandom versus reach.
Yeah.
And you didn't put money it wasn't about chasing CPMs. It wasn't about chasing impressions.
Yeah.
It was about building the largest engaged audience you possibly could.
Yeah.
Then you pivoted to monetizing it, which means more than just ads. It means the whole flywheel. Merchandise, live, the whole mishpucha, as my grandmother would say. It's Yiddish for mishpucha. But then lastly, you did lean into selling your own inventory in the Partners Program, but you did so by hiring a bunch of digital natives and bringing them in-house and really attacking it as a packaged product, not as a single YouTube channel. Is that an accurate thing?
That is much better put than I did.
Well, why do we need you?
Exactly. I could have just phoned
No,
in.
but how has selling the Partners Program been for you? Because you're right. YouTube would rather you sell because you're going to get a higher CPM. Yeah. How has it been working for you? Because if I read your metrics correctly, you're up 110% year on year in revenue sales.
So we started with a 7-figure business, and it was going incredibly well with YouTube. We had a great relationship with the partner sales team there, and they got our IP. They understood, the magic of sort of BBC storytelling, but it was a massive shift bringing in the sales team in house. As you said, going from a 7-figure business, we grew 110% year on year, and we're still predicting to be up year on year this year, which is incredible. You were talking about the ad market earlier on, and I think in certain pockets, there's pressure, but we are incredibly optimistic, as I think most social focused publishers are. So that for us was a big moment. It's so important of who you hire, and about how you sell your fandom.
And you talked earlier about, so that's your sales team, that's who you're working with there, but who you choose to work with has been a big shift for you as well, including this TalentWorks program. So you're now not just working with big studios, you're working with creators individually to create content, shoulder programming around your original content from the telly, but also original digital series and things like that as well, right?
Absolutely. So our incredible department, TalentWorks, has an amazing roster of relationships with creators of sort of every scale in terms of their fandoms. For us, developing those relationships either early on or professionally stalking them and seeing them rise, and who I think we're obviously going to have some special.
But you're also taking talent from your proper telly shows and bringing them into TalentWorks as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sort of talent can come from anywhere, just like a good story can. And therefore sort of thinking about who is the fantastic sort of talent that's cutting through in broadcast and how they can then tell stories on a different platform. That's what TalentWorks do so well, and sort of realizing that creator story and how they talk to their audience is really, really important.
So that's a great segue to our next guest. Welcome, Kiell Smith-Bynoe. So you're on a big hit show, Ghosts, in the UK, but this is your first Cannes Lion, yeah?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Why are you here?
Well, I did GCSE French and I just wanted to practice. I haven't used it in ages. I'm here, I'm doing a talk at the UK Advertising Dinner.
Cool.
On improv, mainly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to improvise it, so I had to write that. And
Seems ironic.
yeah. So that's the main thing, but also.
But this is your first can line. What do you think? What do you think? What did you think of it would be beforehand, and what do you think it is now?
I didn't really have an idea of what it would be. I definitely didn't think it would be this. When I was walking along.
It's a little crazy, right?
Yeah, I was walking along the beach yesterday and seeing like all the. I was about to say tents, like it's a festival.
Yeah.
I guess it is a festival.
It
It's
is a
not.
festival.
It's
It
not
is a festival.
tents. It's what is it?
It's a festival of ideas. It's a competition in the Palais of advertising campaigns. So they do give prizes out, but then it's a competition between all of the brands and all of the platforms. Actually, all of the platforms to attract the prettiest brands to their party. That's what it's about.
Well, I've picked my winner already from the party last night. No, I went to the Snapchat party, but that's the only one I've been to so far. So they're winning. So everyone else has got
Snapchat party was pretty good.
Yeah.
Was that 50 Cent?
It was, yeah.
How was that?
Yeah. Well, he didn't remember me, so.
I was strange.
Yeah, it's really annoying actually. I went to his concert like 4 years ago, but it was fun. It was great. Had a good time, and yeah, it's nice to like see people and network and chat and.
Well, let's not pretend you weren't here for the Jasmine conversation and continue it.
Yes, and thank you for letting me in your house.
She was talking about talent works, and I think one of the first things you did as a professional in the trade was to work on a digital project with BBC Studios. How was that?
Yeah, great. So that was, this was a long time ago. I did some BBC Digital work, and then I feel that has led on to bigger things, and eventually a show like Ghosts, which is like a global hit.
Monster hit.
Yeah. But also still doing smaller projects like The Train, which was a BBC Studios project, and that we shot like a series on a train, and there was Death Valley, which I did more recently, which was like last year, and it came out just a few weeks ago, and that's also been a massive hit, and like really good viewing figures and things like that.
Well, so from day one, you've been in both worlds, right?
Yes,
Because
exactly. Yeah.
As an industry, we're trying to be more like creators. You've been in both TV and digital. You've been in both worlds from the get-go. What have you learned? Did that help you better understand the two worlds, that bridge?
Yeah, definitely. I think like when I came out of drama school, it was 2010, and I didn't really know how to get straight onto. I never thought I was going to be on TV to begin with. I thought I was going to be doing like serious plays. And
is there money in that?
No, not at all. Okay. But is there money in TV? But when I came out of drama school, I was like, I didn't have aspirations of being on television. I just thought like to be realistic, and coming out of like the biggest year my drama school had ever had, which was like 53, and it's usually like 30 or less. And I thought we've been doing plays, and that's what I'll be doing. And then I wanted to have a show reel, because at that time you weren't leaving drama school with a show reel. So a few friends of mine were doing things on YouTube, doing sketches and skits, and so I'd get involved with those. And then that became my show reel. So then I was putting those together and putting that out. So coming from like a creator background, where you're putting your own stuff together, or going, that's going to be the best part for my show reel. And then realizing that is useful to have as people in TV are watching that and going, oh, okay, this guy can do that and that and that, and also put this thing together as a package. So all of that helped. And then I was also auditioning and doing it that way. So I was sort of taking two routes at the same time.
And things have really changed since you graduated in 2010. Now, if a young artist was coming up, a young performer was graduating, it feels like doing the creator stuff is how you build your reel. Now,
exactly.
It's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And to your point, being able to produce and package a project, even if it's a YouTube short or whatever, it shows your kind of breadth of professionalism in the market in a way that just being on a show can't, right?
Yeah.
Would you advise young performers to lean into that?
Yeah, that's always my advice. Whenever I'm asked if like I can give one piece of advice, it's always to just create, make your own stuff. We've all got, well, most of us have got a phone with a camera that we can create a thing.
All of us do, let's be honest.
Yeah, well, my mum struggles with it, but we can all like create something and put something out. So we have the ability to do that. And even if it's not good, you've got a back catalogue, yeah.
It's Cool Story Bro is your improv
Yes, that's
comedy
right.
troupe.
Yeah.
And you just sold out a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
In London.
We just did a UK tour.
Is that so? It's a bit of a side hustle to a certain extent because you're a big TV star. But do you see that as the digital project that you're going to develop next, or do you see that as turning into something beyond stage?
It definitely could, yeah. And I've noticed that improv is getting bigger, and it's more popular. And it used to be a sort of like, I did an article recently, and it was described as the ugly stepsister of comedy. And I think that's
right.
Yeah, I think it's kind of true. It's like a lot of people.
It's hard to do well.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of people know about bad improv. They either know about bad improv or Whose Line Is It
Or that
Anyway?
you know what? Right, exactly.
Yeah, and there's sort of, people don't realize that there's an in-between. Like,
Can you capture improv on? I mean, Whose Line did it well because they had all these guidelines. But can you capture improv on camera?
Yes, yeah. I think that's how I'm selling the shows. We're filming each show, we're putting clips out and putting those online and on social media, and that's what's bringing in an audience. So I think it is possible. Of course, it's better to be in the room and have full context and not just get a 1-minute clip from a 5-minute thing. But it's like, it is possible, and I think we're doing an all right job of it.
Exciting.
Yeah. Well,
Can you send some show dates? I want to go.
Yeah.
Next time we're in
send us some
London.
show
Yeah.
Yeah, would love to go.
And you
You're in
should-
Soho, right?
and
Yeah. So
Nice.
Theatre Wolfenstein.
come to US, play there as well.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And then we can get you on the US Ghosts.
Yeah. And I can make some real money. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks so much for being with us. Let's welcome our special guest, Amelia. Sorry. Now I fucked it up.
Yeah.
It's not an easy name to pronounce.
It's phonetic. It's
a
quite easy
lot
to
of
pronounce,
Let's welcome our next special guest from the hit show Chicken Shop Date, Amelia Dimoldenberg.
I love it. You know, I watched you last night for 2 hours just to get in the mood.
No way, that must have been like 100 episodes, 2 hours.
102. I was a bit worried though. I was a bit scared of you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can be
What about
intimidating.
now? How'd you feel now?
No,
Am
I felt good. I felt
intimidating
good.
now?
Yeah. No, very nice. But yeah, I was a bit scared of you yesterday. But you know, super interested to understand a bit more about how you came up with that concept. You know, what your creative process looks like, and yeah, also how you have that thing. I'm saying scared of you, no, but you have that thing. You're unlike most people who are interviewing big stars. Like there's that personal touch. So how did you come up with that?
Well, I've actually had the channel for 11 years, and so it's been a long journey. And before it was Chicken Shop Date was a YouTube series, it was a column in a youth-run magazine. When I was 16, I started going to a youth club in northwest London, near where I'm from, and we made a magazine. And everyone there was really into UK rap and grime, and I was into Katy Perry and McFly. And so I really wanted to interview all of the artists that everyone was listening to, and thought a great way to do that would be a date. And I'd also never been on a date before, so killing two birds with one stone.
Why chicken though?
And then someone said, when we were kind of discussing the idea, someone said, oh, you should go on a date where you would never usually go on a date to make it funny, and that's how the chicken shop element happened. And yeah, so I would write up the interviews and have a friend take photos. It would get published in the magazine. Then at my first year of university, thought it'd be great if these were actually filmed, because there was a fun dynamic. I was like playing up to the persona, a persona that I'd kind of like was an exaggeration of the deadpan, sarcastic teenager that I was. And then that was 11 years ago, the first episode with the rapper Gets. And I actually interviewed him last year, again, the first ever second date to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the show. So that's kind of the journey, and it's just been, it's been the evolution of Chicken Shop Date, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm quite glad it's been a decade.
What else have you been doing? So you're building a company. How are you pushing for other projects, shows? I think you've done another dating program with Converse, the brand.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did an advert for them. We sort of did. They came up with the idea of having a dating show where the guys and the girls are judged by their shoes.
So you can only see their shoes?
You can only see their shoes, yeah. They're looking for a soulmate, So, yeah, and that was
Is that yours or theirs?
It was theirs. It was kind of a short content series for Converse, but so that's kind of the work that I do. A lot of work with advertisers, actually, and brand branded content as myself. I kind of stay away from advertising on Chicken Shop Date specifically, because I kind of just want that to be completely my creative vision and not have to deal with clients in that space. So I kind of say no to, I don't really work with advertisers there, and I get a lot of offers, and it's been a decision that I've made so that I can kind of keep it as pure as
I love that.
as possible. Yeah, but I love working with brands separately to that, and I think that it's brands give an amazing opportunity for you to kind of make your idea come to life in a world in a climate where it's very hard to get commissioned. I mean, the reason why I do have Chicken Shop Date on YouTube is because I pitched it to broadcasters and they said no, and so I just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to make it myself, and that's what I did. And I've had offers along the way to sell the IP and to make it for broadcasters, and I'm so happy that I've always said no, because I think owning the IP is one of the most amazing things that I have, and so many other creators that I know actually don't actually own the IP to their shows, and that's something that I'm really grateful for and feel like is a very powerful thing. But yeah, in terms of developing other projects, I'm actually developing something with BBC Studios. I've always been very interested in storytelling. I feel like Chicken Shop Date to me is my version of a rom-com, and the story is, will I meet the love of my life, and fingers crossed one day. But I love creating the story with each episode. You know, I never know what the dynamic is between me and the guest, and I do a lot of prep beforehand to figure out what the vibe's going to be, and then in the edit we are meticulous. I sit across the every single edit, directing the episodes, and we film for about just under an hour, and we make it into 8 minutes and under. So there's a lot of shaping that goes into creating the storyline of the episode, moving things around and creating the punchlines, etc.
Yeah, I think there's this tendency in traditional media to treat YouTube and creatordom as, I don't know, less than or not professional. But shows like yours and Hot Ones have redefined the genre of talk.
Yes.
And the meticulous way you write and produce that show, it's very clear how the craft that goes into it. So I think it's really smart for you to keep the brands out and then grow your brand by working with them outside. But how does that create a business for you? You just started a company, or you've started it recently, Dimz, right?
Dimz Inc, yes. Yeah. I guess that's my production company, creative studio. I think, well, when you're creating content, when you're whatever that is, by whatever that may be and whatever platform it is, by definition, you are acting as a production company because you're producing the content yourself. And so for me, it was really important to name myself as a production company with Dimz Inc, because I felt the need to legitimize what we were doing. And I think that once you say, okay, well, I have a production company and we make my shows under this production company, people are like, oh, right, okay, even though we were just honestly just doing what every other creator's doing always, just by hiring freelance people, all of the different things that production companies do, and having my own employees, etc. So yeah, it was just really to legitimize the work that we were doing, and for people in the traditional media landscapes to understand in their terms, that we are doing the same thing, but with our own agenda, and yeah.
I think that's a great thing about the bias that our industry has towards creator media. The fact that you need to legitimize what you're doing when you've been doing this for 10 years. You're so successful. How many subs do you have on YouTube?
3.5 million.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you that, because I do feel like the rules of the creator world have really shifted. Mm-hmm. So you've got 3 million subs on YouTube, about 2 million on TikTok.
4 million.
4 million, I apologize. Did you a disservice. But you're not 100 million. You're not at the size of a Mr. Beast or something along those lines. And yet you feel like a cultural phenomenon. You were at the Oscars. You are everywhere. How do the rules of creatordom work now that you take a passionate cult like 3 million followers on YouTube and turn it into really a zeitgeist brand, and it's what I think it's becoming a lifestyle brand?
Well, I think that, thank you. I think the show kind of transcends the followers in sense. So I think maybe that's how things have shifted. That like follower count, I would say, is like not as like important as maybe it was before. Especially now, like if you see how the algorithms have changed, like the algorithms are so potent now. You know, the things that come up
subscriber
on your
numbers.
Yeah, the things that come up on your feed. You know, you're not a follower to those that type of content. And I think that just naturally, the type of videos that I've been making with Chicken Shop Day, they really work with the algorithm because the way that we edit the videos, we do the B-roll, which is like the shots of the chips and like the boss man and those kinds of things. So we have our episodes have always been in clips, so it's really easy to promote the show because we just
works really well on TikTok.
Yeah, we put the clips out, but the clips is the show. Although I would say that the episodes I always want them to be watched in full on YouTube. That's how they're intended to be watched. But yeah, so I think that our show really works with the algorithm, and we're really good at being in tune with the zeitgeist, and we have talent meetings every week where we go over the inbound requests and the outbound requests for talent. We are really particular with who we have on the show. You know, we're not just going to have someone on the show if they're really famous. Like that's just not a reason to have someone on.
But they also don't have to be single.
They don't have to be single. No, I'm very much into the married people too. Yeah, they don't have to be single.
How do you get on the show? Just asking for a friend.
You have to fill in a really, really long form.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Which I'll send you.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'll send you.
For my friend.
For your friend, yeah.
Not me. You were pointing at me, but not me.
No.
Not you.
But I'm happy to. Yeah, no, I'm good at filling out forms.
Yeah, I think we're really good at picking, choosing talent to have on the show. That's, a mixture of like people.
Do you do a chemistry test? Because it does feel like, especially like the Ben Stiller and some of these other
was
Billie
weird.
Eilish and...
Sorry, Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller, yeah. I mean, I was such a fan of Ben Stiller, and I think I grew up watching his movies, and
You gave him such shit.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Well, when there's people like Ben Stiller, it's funny because when I'm there, I read someone's energy, right? And as soon as I read their energy, I know if they can take it or not. And I think with him, I was like, I can go there because I think that it will be fine, yeah.
That's his character.
Whereas with other people where they're more maybe like have a sweetness to them, I wouldn't
crush them.
I'm not going to do that. And I think that's what I love about the show and what people also like about the show. It's interesting when you say that you watch numerous episodes. I think maybe the energy in each of them is different, you know. Some is friendlier than others. And I would say over the course of 10 years, I've grown up. You know, when I started the show, I was 20. Now I'm 31. So I've grown up with the show and I've become more confident, and the character that I play, the persona, has shifted too, and I like being able to be malleable to each person. I do that a lot on the red carpet too, when you have
you're great
90 seconds with someone, you have to read their energy and be able to get something incredible. And that's what I love, the challenge.
Yeah, interviewing is hard, and you do a tremendous job of it.
Right back at you guys.
Thank you very much. I was fishing. So last question for the group.
In one sentence. Answer in one sentence.
Yeah, as quickly
otherwise
as
we're
you
going to
can.
be yelled at.
Because you have to kick us out of your apartment.
Yeah.
What is the greatest mythology that you'd like to debunk about creatordom? What is the greatest myth that most people have about creators and creator platforms and creator content? I'll start with you. Amelia,
that creators don't work hard. I don't know. I don't want to say work hard, but like they're not meticulous with what they do, and that they're not relentless with their work ethic. I think that that's maybe a misconception.
I think maybe about it just being seen as lesser than TV or film, or I think is its own thing, which is just as. I was trying to think of a different word, but all I've got is good.
it's up to the viewer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that they're for hire. I think actually the best sort of opportunities and the best content and the best storytelling is when it's a partnership, and you're working on it together and you're creating that story together rather than considering it an influencer.
Yeah, that's great. And that's what your Talent Works is all about, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Did you have a good time? Good to be in Cannes with you. Good to see you here in France. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. See you around the Croisette. Yeah. Thanks for watching the Media Odyssey podcast. That is Marion Ranchet, and your newsletter is?
Streaming Made Easy on Substack.
And
you're Evan Shapiro, right?
And my Substack is Media War and Peace on Substack. Thank you very much for attending.
time.
Cheers. Au revoir.